under the hood, when we talk about that hub and spoke model, the pattern you may remember for those from like a traditional integration architecture is a pub sub model or a publish subscriber. So the idea with that is that you have publishers that have data that needs to get sent out. So for example, an e-commerce site or new orders are created, or a shopping cart was updated. Those types of orders, or those types of that type of information, those are publishers. And then subscribers would be the pieces of your system that want to know about that. So in this example right here, I have on screen, we have our e-commerce portal. And then down at the bottom, you have three systems that would care about what's happening from an e-commerce perspective. So we have a payment platform on the left that you need to process payment when an order is placed. You might have Salesforce or some sort of CRM where maybe you're tracking campaign information and you want to be able to know what orders were placed with what discounts and on what marketing campaign. And then you also may need to have your order fulfillment system that needs to know, okay, an order was just placed. I need to get my product to the customers and where they need to go. So in this example, this is a point-to-point. So this is the e-commerce portal that's calling each of the different systems, the payment platform, then the CRM, then the order fulfillment, and doing that integration point-to-point. Now there's some challenges with this, as Paul was talking about, is what happens when the order fulfillment system needs to change. So that integration now has changed. Well, the e-commerce portal all of a sudden has to care about that. You have to modify your e-commerce site in order to handle the change to the order fulfillment. And now what happens, say, if we have a new system that comes online that needs to care about orders or something coming out of the e-commerce site, the e-commerce code base now has to change in order to accommodate that. And that is unnecessary change, that is unnecessary complexity that does not scale over time. And in the software world, we call this tight coupling, that the pieces of your system know and care about the other pieces of your system. So now if we talk about, so now let's start to explore what this would look like using the pub sub model to try to achieve our data hub. So the way you do that is with what's called a messaging system. So some sort of queue, some sort of topic. There's a number of great technologies out there, RabbitMQ, Apache Kafka, the JMS stack. The cloud providers have their own. We're a big fan of Amazon's EventBridge. But let's look at now, let's take a step back. So we have our e-commerce portal, and we now introduce a series of messaging queues to communicate order information. So the first thing we have is the CRM subscriber, Salesforce. So that's going to be reading from that queue and doing whatever it needs to do. Then we need to add the payment platform in. Well, you'll notice that there's only one line that's been drawn to the payment platform from those queues, because the e-commerce portal does not have to care. The messaging system in between has now loosely coupled our components so that we can have an arbitrary number of subscribers that can adhere to this stream of data, that can subscribe to the stream of data. And so we can add our order fulfillment, and it just continues to work. And so what we call this is, we say that this is a scalable architecture, not necessarily from a performance perspective, although that absolutely has this advantage. But when we say scalable, we mean the ability to change, adapt, and add new functionality quickly. That's what we talk about when we talk about scalable. And that's really the power that this pattern and this framework gives you by decoupling your system.